Hey crew, I've got the key to this 2025 Porsche 911 Carrera T. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. The Carrera enters the 992.2 generation 425, and that brings some changes across the board. The Carrera T gets its own packaging, and this one has the optional exterior styling pack with this Gentian blue accent coming off the Porsche crest at the front. You've got functional corner vents. This one has the optional matrix design LED projector headlights with DRLs and turn signals. This one is painted in white. They just call it white, and it's a no-cost option, and I like it. At the side, with that design package, there are blue accents for these 20-inch front, 21-inch rear wheels, wrapped in Pirelli P0 summer tires, 245 section front, and 305 at the back. Within those wheels are now upsized 13.8-inch front rotors that are ventilated and clamped on by 6 piston calipers. Carrera T badge there on the side, in blue, gloss black for the mirror caps, flush mounted door handles. Looking at the profile, this has not changed. That same classic silhouette, just with more body on it for the current generation of Carreras. There are also a pair of stickers here with a 6-speed shift pattern, just letting you know that the Carrera T is manual only. Getting to the back, there's an LED taillight bar spanning the width of the rear end with LED turn signals. And then down low is a black plastic diffuser with 2 black gloss exhaust outlets. The sports exhaust is standard for the new 911T. I think it looks fantastic, especially in this color, but my question for you is whether the blue accents are just the right amount of flair or if they went a little too far. You let me know in the comments, and let's check out the interior. Opening up and looking inside at these black leather bordered seats with 911 stitched in blue on the headrests, blue contrast stitching on the seat borders, blue and gray fabric inserts. These seats are heated as standard and 4-way power adjusting. They also come with blue seat belts. I'm a sucker for that. And then pull on this leather strap to reveal storage, not seating. You can add back seats for no extra cost, but unless you're getting an insurance bonus for that, I wouldn't, because they're just pretty much unusable. It's better for storage back there. If you pull on this tab here, that opens up the frunk, and inside there is 5 cubic feet of space. If you pull on this tab, that opens the engine cover, and you can't do much back there. On the door, there's black leather with blue contrast stitching, this metal looking trim, and then more fabric insert, padded leather for your armrest, power adjusting and power folding door mirrors with one-touch up-down windows. Down here, that's leather. There is a BOSE sound system as an option. Sliding into the cabin now and closing up that door for a nice solid thud. There is a suede wrapped headliner above me, and I've got plenty of headroom here at 6 feet tall. The steering wheel is leather wrapped, has that blue stitching on the inside. It's also heated as standard. There is now a fully digital gauge cluster, no analog tachometer. And while I am missing the analog tach, I am grateful that they've moved the fuel gauge right there into the center, so it's easy to read. Instead of the previous generation, I'd have to peer around the spoke of the steering wheel to actually see how much fuel I have left. The start-stop is now a button. It's still on the left-hand side, but it is a button, so you miss out on that ignition crank. And then there is black leather up on the dashboard with blue stitching. Sport chrono lap timer is standard, and it has that blue backing for the lighting. The infotainment is responsive, it's easy to use, and it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Beneath that screen is gloss black with blue accents. There is a shift pattern logo over on the passenger side to match the stickers on the windows, and this MT logo underneath the manual gear selector, just in case you weren't sure what you were looking at here. You know, it says MT. Also, I love the walnut gear selector. It is so much cooler than full leather wrapping or metal, and it feels just fantastic in the hands. There are the knurled finishes for your climate control adjustments. I like those are physical, along with the volume knob and the dial to control the screen if you don't want to touch it. You also have these toggles here, one for your favorites button, exhaust, hazards, traction control, and suspension firmness. Further back, we've got the seat heating controls. You can remove this cup holder. I'm not sure why you would do that, but you can. And then underneath the armrest, which is leather padded, we've got enough space for a smartphone to sit on the wireless charging pad, and there are 2 USB-C ports. As for visibility, it's great out the front, and the side windows are nice and large. There's a little blind spot with the headrest here, and a little one at the back pillar. Not too bad, though, and there's standard blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic. This cabin overall, with all the blue touches, does feel distinctive from other Carreras. I'm not sure how I feel about the fabric seat inserts on a vehicle costing $156,000 as tested, or all the manual references. I mean, it's obvious, just look inside the cabin. Either way, it's time. Let's go take the 911T for a drive. All right, let's fire it up. The Flat 6 is alive. Hello, cabin crew. Thanks for joining for this first drive in the 25 Porsche 911T. Let me throw on my seatbelts here before I confirm that we are in the normal drive mode. There's a wet, normal, sport, and Sport Plus mode to choose from. We're going to leave it in normal to start things off, and I'm going to release the parking brake here before I then pull the gear selector over and up to reverse. That prompts a high-res backup camera system, and you've got a bird's eye view off to the left-hand side along with parking sensors. I'm going to roll on out of here. See those trajectory lines off to the right, and then head into first gear, which feels like so much less daunting of a task than the old 7-speed manual. This new T has 6 forward gears, and so the spacing of those gears is easier, and this just doesn't look as convoluted. I'm going to begin with a turning radius test, so lining things up before cranking the wheel, and finding a terrifically tight turning circle. That's fun to say, because of the now standard rear wheel steering system. Let's listen to the turn signal now, which is such a mellow, pleasant tone. I could leave that on light for a long time and not be frustrated by it. What about the sound of the horn? World famous horn test coming up now. Ooh, that's much less pleasant. Moving on to the Powertrain. It's a twin-turbocharged 3-liter flat 6 that makes 388 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque sent to just the rear tires. That is 9 horsepower more than the old 911T, thanks to some larger turbochargers borrowed from the GTS. Among other things borrowed, you might look at the 6-speed and presume, well, that gearbox must have come from the GT3. It didn't, unfortunately. It's still based on the 7-speed, but they do borrow the cables and the bushings from the GT3 to remove some play from the transmission. So it's just it's a tighter feeling gearbox. It's a nice shifting action. The throws are ultra abbreviated, and there's a distinctive notch into each gear to accompany the well-defined engagement and release point of the clutch. And this twin-turbo flat 6 has, near as I can tell, 0 turbo lag. Even in the normal drive mode, with the measured throttle response, you just pick up pace effortlessly, but not in an overzealous way. It's 388 horsepower. It's not 600 horses. You get moving at a good clip, and you're happy about it. And can I just say something else? There's some extra feeling of importance to utilizing an open-pore wood gear lever. That part may be subjective, but it feels right to me, and it's worth money, some amount of money. I'm not sure how much money. This car is expensive, but this feels right for a car costing this much. When it's time to interact with the brake pedal, you can easily feel out the amount of pressure required to smoothly come up to a stoplight. And if you're at that light for a while, then the start-stop system, if it's on, might engage. You can turn that off, hitting that button there on the screen, or you could program your favorites button here to turn the start-stop system on or off. I wish you could use the favorites button either on the wheel or on the dashboard to turn off or on the auto rev match function, which I actually like to have on around town, because at stoplight speeds, you're not really going hard into the brake pedal to roll your ankle over and have that perfect blipping of the throttle, so just having the car do it for you is nice. But then when you're in a performance context in a canyon road or on the track, you might want to turn that off, and you would have to go into the infotainment screen to do that instead of being able to program the favorites button to do it for you. The ride quality with this active suspension management that lowers the ride height but also gives you the adaptive dampers is fantastic. You feel the undulations, the broken bits of pavement, but you're well insulated from the harshness of those blemishes. You just kind of coast over them and you stay happy. These seats are wonderfully comfortable. Even though there aren't all that many different ways of adjustment, they fit my body type perfectly, and they support me in all the right places. In a commuting context, if you're here on the highway, you might be interested in passing power, and the T doesn't have the push to pass button like you get in some other Carrera models, but a quick flick over to Sport will give you the throttle response you're looking for, and then the downshift of a couple gears will put you in the meat of the power and allow you to move over into the lane of your choosing quickly and efficiently. And when you have found the spot you're looking for, let me quiet up for a second, listen to the cabin volume at these speeds. Okay, couple things to keep in mind here. One, without that 7th overdrive gear, in 6th gear, I'm sitting at a higher RPM and therefore hearing more engine noise at these speeds. And also, they've removed some sound deadening material in the T, and so especially on that louder road surface, I was hearing more tire hum than I otherwise would in the standard 911 Carrera. And yet the wind noise and sound of outside traffic is minimal, and so your commute should stay quite pleasant. As far as driving assistance features, there is just regular cruise control. It's not adaptive to maintain a following distance to the vehicle in front of you, and there is both a lane keep assist and a lane departure warning system. You can find in some other manual transmission cars adaptive cruise control features, but in heavy traffic especially, I don't find them to be all that helpful because you're having to change your own gears anyway. Let's kick off the performance diagnosis with a real-world 0 to 60 test. I've got my race box set up here to record. I'm in the Sport Plus drive mode. I've got traction control switched to Sport. I can clutch in and pin the throttle, and it's going to hold revs at 3,500 RPM before I then get off the clutch. Here we go, clutching in, into first gear, revving it out, letting it go, surging towards 60, getting there in second gear in 4.27 seconds. Is it G-force or Wii-force? Awful. But even the base Carrera with the PDK is gonna be quicker to 60 than this car with the manual. That's not what this vehicle is about. It's about savoring the engagement of a good manual on a good road. And there is a lot to savor about this car. The bite of those brakes, the balance of the platform, the feel of the steering, which is talking to me so much just off center here, and loading up beautifully as I add lock through curves. And that rear wheel steering system helping the back end just tuck in and virtually lengthen the wheelbase. Give it this planted feel. So much stability as I carry a lot of speed through these S's. On a flat 6 is just singing now. I'm actually not having to do a whole lot of shifting. I could just stay in third gear. It's quite tall. And I am in the sweetness of the power band. Oh, this car just dances. What a delight. Got that torque vectoring system on hand and help the T slingshot out of curves. got the auto blimp feature turned off now, so I can match my own revs when I get up to the downhill and need to move down to second gear. Just for a little extra engagement with the car. And to get a bit closer to that 7,400 RPM cutoff. What a rush this car. No one does steering quite like Porsche. Brimming with feel. Sensational balance all told through the steering. Because this is just a first drive, I'm not going to reach a verdict on the Carrera T relative to competitors like the Mercedes-AMG GT63 Coupe or the Aston Martin Vantage. I will have some closing thoughts, but before I share those, let's go over the top speed and the fuel economy. Top speed for the Carrera T is 183 miles per hour, and the fuel economy is 17 mpg in the city, 25 on the highway, and 20 combined. The starting price for the Carrera T is just under $136,000, and this one, as tested, is just under $156,000. That is for sure a lot of money. It is about 10 grand more than the last model 911T. But you have to keep in mind that there are several desirable standard features now baked in to that $136,000 price point. And when you think about the upgrades, the little bit of extra power, the bigger brakes, the open pore walnut wood gear selector, and the transition to a better sorted 6-speed versus the old 7-speed manual, it starts to make sense. And from this driver's perspective, I'm just delighted that Porsche hasn't tossed aside a critical piece of what I think makes the 911 so special. Yeah, the car just gets better and better with each iteration, but that would mean less if you didn't at least have the option to row your own gears. And the fact that Porsche actually put some money into improving that transmission for 25, it speaks volumes about where the brand's head is at. It's a very good car. And I've got a very large grin on my face today. But which would you guys choose? Would you have this new 911T? Would you go get the AMG GT63 or the Aston Martin Vantage? Let me know in the comments, and hope you guys have enjoyed this first drive. I will see you again next time.